So apparently the future has arrived, and according to almost every politician in America, the future looks like this. A windowless concrete warehouse the size of 6 Buc-ee's duct taped together, full of computers arguing with each other about whether a hot dog is a sandwich, while consuming enough electricity to restart the sun. That's progress now. That's innovation. That's economic development. And look, before somebody in the comments starts typing with one hand while clutching an Elon Musk body pillow with the other, no, this is not an anti-technology rant. I like technology. I'm autistic. Technology is basically one of our ethnic groups. I'm a Desert Storm Marine, which means I grew up during an era when technology meant stealth aircraft, satellite systems, precision guidance, the internet, and somehow a printer that still refuses to connect to Wi-Fi in 2026. Technology is not the problem. The problem is when government and giant corporations crawl into bed together so aggressively they become one horrifying human centipede of subsidies, lobbying, tax abatements, and public-private partnerships. Because Texas politicians keep telling us AI is the future. Okay, then why does the future look like billion-dollar server warehouses getting tax breaks while our power bills go up? Why does the future need special government incentives if it's supposedly the greatest economic revolution since electricity? You ever notice that? Every unstoppable market innovation somehow needs taxpayer subsidies, regulatory favoritism, eminent domain, water access deals, infrastructure carve-outs, and politicians holding ceremonial shovels like they're planting freedom into the earth. If your revolutionary technology needs 12 lobbyists and a state-funded coupon book, maybe it's not exactly capitalism anymore. Maybe it's just corporate feudalism with fiber optics. Because what we're building right now in Texas are not data centers. They're the modern version of company towns. Remember those? Only instead of coal mines and railroads, they consume electricity, water, land, tax revenue, and political influence. And in exchange, local communities get promised jobs. Always jobs. Every mega project in American history comes wrapped in the same sales pitch like a dead fish in a newspaper. This will create jobs. Yeah? How many? Because these AI facilities cost billions of dollars and then employ fewer people than a medium-sized Walmart. We're talking about gigantic automated server fortresses where the primary full-time employee appears to be an HVAC technician named Kyle, whose entire job is preventing ChatGPT from melting into a puddle. And yet, local governments throw themselves at these corporations like divorced dads at a jet ski dealership. Because everybody's terrified of being seen as anti-business. That's the trick. That's always the trick. You see, both major parties in America now worship growth the way ancient civilizations worshipped volcanoes. Republicans hear big corporation moving to Texas and immediately start freebasing GDP statistics. Democrats hear AI Innovation Hub and suddenly act like a Marvel movie soundtrack should start playing behind the zoning meeting. Different branding, same incentives, same playbook, same cronyism. Because once you strip away the culture war costumes, both parties fundamentally agree on one thing. Gigantic centralized institutions should receive special treatment if politicians think it makes them look economically visionary. That's it. That's the consensus. And the people noticing this first are not left-wing activists. It's rural conservatives. It's small-town Texans. It's property rights people. It's farmers looking at water usage numbers like, excuse me, the robot plagiarism machine needs how much groundwater? Because here's the part that nobody mentions in the glossy economic development press releases. AI infrastructure is physically enormous. The internet trained people to think tech is weightless, like apps emerge magically from skinny guys in hoodies drinking mushroom coffee. No, AI runs on industrial infrastructure. Massive server farms, massive cooling systems, massive electrical demand, massive water consumption. This is not Silicon Valley anymore. This is industrial policy. And Texas is sprinting into it like a Labrador chasing a tennis ball made of campaign donations. Meanwhile, normal Texans are already dealing with rising utility costs, housing shortages, strained infrastructure, water concerns, grid instability, and property taxes high enough to qualify as emotional abuse. And now we're supposed to believe that the solution is, what if we gave Microsoft-sized electricity consumption to predictive text generators? Fantastic, because nothing says responsible governance like subsidizing a machine that can generate 12,000 fake LinkedIn posts per second, while ERCOT sends me texts every August that sound like hostage negotiations. Please conserve power between 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. Dude, I'm already sitting in my house like a Depression-era raccoon because groceries cost the same as military procurement contracts now. And this is where people misunderstand the backlash. This is not anti-technology. This is anti-concentrated power. Huge difference. See, I'm a libertarian, which means I consistently disappoint everybody at Thanksgiving. But one thing libertarians used to understand before half the party got distracted arguing about whether driver's licenses are tyranny is that concentrated economic power and concentrated political power eventually merge. Always. Railroads did, banks did. Defense contractors did it. Big Pharma did it. Tech companies did it. And now AI companies are doing it. Because once corporations become large enough, they stop competing in markets and start competing for government favoritism. That's the transition point. That's when capitalism starts mutating into something else. And historically, that something else usually sucks giant elephant and donkey dicks. The original company towns worked the same way. Corporations would come into a region promising jobs, modernization, investment, infrastructure, prosperity. And for a while, some of that was even true. But eventually, the corporation becomes so economically dominant that local government stops functioning as a representative institution and starts functioning as the company's administrative bitch. That's the danger. Not the technology itself, the dependency, the centralization, the political capture. Because when one facility consumes enough power to reshape regional infrastructure planning, that's no longer just a private business. That's quasi-governmental influence. And nobody voted for it. That's the part that's bothering people. Americans never actually had a democratic conversation about AI replacing labor, AI surveillance integration, AI-generated propaganda, energy prioritization, digital monopolies, and whether local communities should subsidize an automated infrastructure that may eliminate future jobs. That it was just deployed, like an app update nobody read. And now politicians are acting shocked because people are asking questions, especially here in Texas, where there's still a strong cultural instinct against centralized authority. Texans will tolerate a surprising amount of nonsense, right up until it starts looking like unelected institutions making decisions over local communities. Then everybody turns into Patrick Henry wearing Ariat boots. And honestly, good, because skepticism toward concentrated power is healthy. That's not extremism, that's constitutional literacy. The Constitution was not written by people who trusted centralized institutions. It was written by people who were deeply paranoid about concentrated authority, which, as somebody diagnosed autistic later in life, I finally realize means that the Founding Fathers may have been the first generation of politically weaponized neurodivergent men. Because if you read the Federalist Papers carefully, half of it sounds like we developed an elaborate system of checks and balances because humans are sketchy as fuck. Correct, they were right. An AI infrastructure should immediately trigger those instincts. Not because computers are evil, not because progress is evil, but because centralized systems always promise efficiency before they accumulate power. Always. And once political leaders become financially dependent on those systems, good luck regulating them honestly. That's the cycle. That's the story. That's the warning. So no, I'm not anti-AI. I'm anti-subsidized techno-feudalism masquerading as innovation. I'm anti-government picking winners and losers while calling it economic development. And I'm deeply suspicious of any political system where ordinary citizens are told to conserve water, conserve electricity, tighten budgets, accept rising costs, and lower expectations while billion-dollar corporations get tax breaks to build a digital cathedral that consumes an entire county's worth of infrastructure so that an algorithm can explain all of the Batman movies since 1989 incorrectly. That's not free markets. That's not decentralization. That's not local control. That's the new company town. Only this time the coal mine is a server rack.